at Lakeside near Brisbane. About 10 seconds away. Who will win the start? Richards or will it be Johnson? They're off and racing. Johnson has got it sideways and he's won the start. Richards has been gobbled up by two Commodores. Here comes the turbo and Crichton moves up on the inside and takes Richards on the inside as they run down to the carousel for the first time. We can guarantee you we have a race going now for round 8 of the touring car title, the Carousel. Queensland's own Dick Johnson comes out of the van, leading it sideways, and you should hear the crowd on the hill. They've all erupted. Rock a lightning start. Perkins is next. Listen to the crowd as Francevic drops in behind them too. And under the bridge comes Dick Johnson, a little sideways, but he's heading up to Motorcraft and leading. Johnson all pumped up and he's going to win one round of the Australian Touring Car Championship. Then this is it. Francevic drops back behind the BMW. Car number 7, Larry Perkins in second place. Brock in third in 05. Francevic seems to have overcome the problems they had in yesterday's practice. Then Masterson, Bond in there as well. Keogh, Tony Longhurst recovering from the dreadful start of the 323 BMW. Across the strike, Dick Johnson leads. Perkins in second place, followed by Brock, then Jim Richards in car number 62. Oh, look at Larry. Back end of the Commodore, very taily as he came to the right-hander at the carousel. Look at Richards getting onto the back of Brock. Mustang leading two Commodores and BMW into their second lap of round 8 of the Australian Touring Car Championship.
After that slow start, Richards really does have to get back into the thick of things early, particularly on this circuit. He can't afford to stay back in the pack and be in danger of being shuffled even further back. He's got to stay right on the heels of the leading division.
Here he comes up now on the tail of Peter Brock. At the same spot only a lap or so back, he left Robbie Francevic thinking. A little big squeeze there on Francevic. Started off to be a little, turned out to be a big one. Down the roller coaster, Peter Brock 0-5. And he's holding third at the moment. Series leader Jim Richards behind him. Johnson up front leading it from Larry Perkins. And then back behind them we can see Rob Francevic, Steve Martin, Neville Crichton and Colin Bond. They're the next in line. There's the Scrabbies. Richards trying to work to the outside. Setting up for a good pass here on the inside as they come through the bend. BMW gets up here on the inside. Brock has to give way and Richards is through. And a great drive that from Richards. Richards now is going to go chasing Larry Perkins. Richards has gone for a slightly softer compound this weekend. Two Commodores. Some Pirelli D5 radial slip tyre, which they normally only use in qualifying, but they feel that the circuit here is sufficiently quick enough and easy enough on tyres to be able to get away with it. So the BMW I would expect to be very fast.
Checking the order up front, Dick Johnson leads from Larry Perkins. Third spot held down by Jim Richards, then Peter Brock. Robbie Francevic is next in the Volvo, then Steve Masterton.
And I'll guarantee you that Jim Richards is trying. Not often you see Jim with the tail out, and he is trying to pull the gap back on Johnson, keeping in mind when they qualified yesterday, only a tenth of a second, the split between Johnson and, of course, Jim Richards. He has finished second in this round last year in the wet, and he would desperately like to put on the big win in front of an enormous crowd here today. And I think that just about every one of them is up at the moment and cheering Dick Johnson along the way.
The Johnson victory, of course, would open the Touring Car Championship right up.
There's the shot as they go beneath the bridge. Just listen to the cars. They are on full hoot as they go under the bridge, some of them sideways. Johnson, though, coming up to the top of Motorcraft. Francevic hanging in there as well in the Volvo. Down the roller coaster through Castrol. Johnson, another one.
They're still hanging over the fence and out of the trees, cheering themselves hoarse.
Here's Larry Perkins now with Jim Richards coming up close behind him. They run down to the kick at the left-hander. 1.5 seconds between Johnson and Perkins.
They're leaving Brock behind in fourth place. Quite a gap opening up there.
Jim cutting the front across the curve that time. Even if he's running soft tyres.
His worst performance so far has only been a fifth as Larry Perkins gets out of the grass. So just 40 points separates them at the moment. Richards can't afford any mistakes at all. The gap continues to close between Johnson and Richards. Pit Rock a little closer to the back of Larry Perkins. And Francevic lurking in fifth. And they've dropped off. Masterton, Crichton and Don.
on towards the ridge again. Richards putting everything into this. He's gaining on Johnson. There's the gap. 200 corner again. John was trying to pick a spot. We take race cam and we'll position the camera out the back window. You can see the gap between Johnson and Richards as they run downhill.
It's an interesting battle on in the smaller cars too, Mike, between the Elton and Colin Bond and the BMW Tony Longhurst. So there's a few battles raging out there. Jason Longhurst has got the upper hand at the moment. He's ahead of Bond on the track.
This is the big battle at the moment. It's for the race lead. And Richards all the time getting closer to Johnson. I think Johnson's going to hand this one to Jim on a platter. Coming out of the carousel again. Johnson all the way. You can hear the crowd on the hill. They have not stopped cheering here. As Richards keeps working away.
There's a sign immediately across from our commentary point that states that Dick Johnson walks on water. Well, there's plenty of it at Lakeside.
Here we come. Here's Richards setting him up for the pass and takes Johnson. Yes, he does. Jim Richards. Now we take race cam with Johnson as they go to the top of Motorcraft. The man that has come from behind on a couple of occasions in the Touring Car Championship has done it again here today at Lakeside. The Castrol. Richards leading. Johnson in second. Perkins in third. They come past absolute full house. The two Commodores back behind.
The BMW is spending a lot of time going sideways at the moment, and Jim's going to have to be fairly careful of his tyres in this race. Johnson's not going to let him get away.
Johnson will carry him all the way. Nick has said his car will be as strong at the finish as he hoped it would be at the start. Well, it's been fairly strong at the start, and he's giving Jim an idea that Jim is not going to be able to take the lead and cool it for a few laps.
Says an awful lot, doesn't it, for Jim Richards' ability to be up front yet again in this 8th round of the Australian Touring Car Championship. Car 62, Jim Richards in the BMW leads from Dick Johnson and Larry Perkins in the persons of the Mobile Dealer 10 Commodores, holding down 3rd place at this stage in round 8 at Lakeside. Lead Dick Johnson, and back in 6th place, 6th and 7th place on the back, we've got Colin Bond and Tony Longhurst staging a little war of their own in the under 3 litre class. That's Neville Crichton too, he's behind them. Just goes to show you how well these two cars are going up front. Yes, and I don't think Neville's going to be a very happy man as he locks up and back right, going into the right-hander of the carousel, because he needs points in this championship to be able to hold out Dick Johnson. That's the real tussle of the points table at the moment between Crichton and Johnson, being, as we look here through the eyes of race camera, just how close Dick Johnson is to the back of Jim Richards, through the kink along the main straight, up to the carousel, and Dick Johnson back here with a real chance for the lead.
He's jumped over the curve there, but keeping in mind, Johnson said all the way along he's got a set of tyres and a car that will handle and not go off. How close do you want it, folks, in the Touring Car Championship? Mustang-bounded Dick Johnson zeroing back in on Jimmy Richards. As soon as Richards gets a little straight, the horsepower comes into play. But in the tricky little bits, Johnson's Mustang closes up appreciably. Here they come up, Motorcraft hill again. Richards a little straighter this time. He's been throwing the car all over the racetrack and getting it sideways in the opening laps.
The harder Johnson pushes into these corners, the bigger toll is going to take on his tyres.
That's exactly what Johnson's working to, the game plan. Try and see if he can pressure him, make him wear his tyres, and then hopefully slip by towards the end of the event. Brand is still in third, as you can see, back behind him.
He's closing that gap, and Brock is now just 2.9 seconds behind the leading bunch.
Coming up on one of the Toyotas as they come out of the carousel. It's part of the course guarantee to take your breath away for a moment or so. And watch Richards, yes, driver has moved across and signalled Richards through. Johnson has gone along for the ride and once again keeps the pressure well and truly on Richards as they come up to Hungry Corner, the one up to Motorcraft. Over the top of Motorcraft once again, and the gap between Richards and Dick Johnson remains about the same. Open racetrack in front of them. And And there's Brock, and of course Robbie Francevic in the Turbo Volvo. Not too far back.
A bit of a stop-start race for Francevic. He made a lightning start, dropped back. Now he's moved around here, just over 2.5 seconds.
So Peter has Perkins across there on the right side of the racetrack with obviously some problems in slowing. Coming up on one of the slower cars at the top of Motorcraft Hill. Richards very, very comfortable indeed in the black BMW.
Russell Worthington indicating that he wants Richards to go by on the right-hand side. So Jim at the moment looks to be reasonably comfortable. It's a question now of who's got the best sprint left in their tyres. The gap is 0.8 of a second. And Jim having a security tab on the brakes just to bring the pressure up before they go Dunlops earlier this morning. Yes, it's them again on the car. So perhaps a different compound, or maybe the opportunity now to do some testing. Wayne just gets the front left back on. No, Larry's out of the car. So it's terminal.
Well, they're going through the exercise perhaps, so they have a problem there. So Larry Perkins drops out. This man hasn't though. Jimmy Richards, 62. Leads back onto the straight again. Coming down to the line with 2 laps remaining in the 8th round of the Touring Car Championship.
That time through Jim Richards extending the lead to 1.8 seconds.
So 1.8 for the gap, with about 1 3/4 laps to run. Looking very, very strong at this stage.
There's Jim Richards. The car looks to be a little more stable on the road now than it was earlier.
Well, the car has responded well to the demands placed on it by Richards, who really had to use it to throw it around the racetrack to come back from 4th. He did that very, very successfully indeed. Getting up Motorcraft Hill. And Jim Richards at 62. Down on the approach now to Castro Corner. Still that same gap over Dick Johnson. Peter Brock in 3rd. Robbie Francevic is 4th. Bond, of course, in 5th place. Neville Crichton in 6th. Across the line, 1 lap remaining. 62, driven by Jimmy Richards, the JPS BMW, heading down to the car in first class showing here today. Down the roller coaster, the Castrol for the final time. Tucking into the right-hander, checkered flag at the ready. As they come down the straightaway, Dick's got a little bit sideways, but across the strike, the checkered flag will come out. So Jimmy Richards goes on to win round 8 of the Australian Touring Car Championship narrowly from Queensland's Dick Johnson, Peter Brock, and New Zealander Robbie Francevic. Quite a race between the front-running 4 and a marvellous scrap between the 62 driver and 17. Let's recap the placings for you. Round 8, the winner's gone to Jim Richards in the BMW. 2nd place to Queensland's Dick Johnson, and 3rd place to Peter Brock.
Championship, and that remarkable man Jim Richards has done it again, defeating Dick Johnson with Peter Brock in 3rd place and Robbie Francevic 4th. And we're going to try and get a hold of Robbie Francevic to talk to first of all, because he's certainly once again, as we've seen before in his Volvo, been able to give Peter Brock some hurry up through the mid stages of the race, and I guess he'll have a few words to say about it, as will no doubt Peter Brock. Dick Johnson, well, he did pursue relentlessly once more after he lost the lead to Jim Richards, but you can take nothing away from the man in the flying black BMW, because once he regained the lead after a slow start, he certainly did it very, very well indeed. Robbie Francevic has joined us looking very much worn out. That was a pretty tough race, pal.
Yeah, well, it's the best I could do in the circumstances.
Under the circumstances, you were knocking on Mr. Brock's rear door quite a bit there through that lap 20 to 25.
I actually thought of called at that stage, and I thought, better not.
Well, I thought of it too when I saw a puff of smoke from a small brake locker.
No, that wasn't a small brake locker. That was me putting him sideways at the top of the hill. But I backed off.
You had one or two harsh things to say about this circuit, but you look like you've enjoyed yourself.
I enjoy all my motor racing, no matter where it is.
Where to now with the Volvo?
We're going to do some testing between now and Camaroo, so that's going to be great.
Great race, and I know 4th place is no consolation, but congratulations.
Thank you.
Peter Brock.
Hi.
Another man with a little bit of work to do. I think these blokes have just about got you a measure, mate.